Hello, everybody. Nice to see you. I'm feeling actually quite bad that I couldn't join you last night for the dinner and everything. Just was not feasible to travel to London. So I'm beaming to you from the Finnish countryside. So my background is in philosophy, philosophy of mind and philosophy of science. I did my master's degree in Helsinki, University of Helsinki in philosophy, but I escaped to the biology department and physiology and neuroscience, and because I wanted to do philosophy that is relevant to the sciences, but also I wanted to have a scientific relevance to the philosophy that I was doing, and I also ended up doing a detour in business and sports, and then eventually returned to my PhD, and was lucky to have David Pernu as my public opponent in Helsinki 8 years ago, and then ended up coming to King's 2014, I think, and actually started this project with Sherry in 2015, the philosophy and medicine project. So I've been working on causation and causal explanation in philosophy of science and philosophy of mind, and one of my main reasons for coming to King's was to apply these things that I have been working on medicine and philosophy of medicine, and not just psychiatry, but I think issues to causal explanation are relevant to medicine in many ways, as you probably know. And I'd like to do more work on more somatic issues actually than just philosophy of psychiatry. So I'm going to do something maybe a bit different, although I really liked Citra's talk yesterday, and going to start by linking what I'm going to say and how I'm going to do this to what he said yesterday. So I'm going to treat this as a workshop. So I'm gonna present you some things that I've been working on, and some ideas that I want you to think about and us to discuss. So I don't really have a solid paper here. I don't even have an outline of a paper. There are several kind of a work in progress things that relate to this stuff, and well, also something that is about to come out soon. But the grand thing that I'm here presenting is a mix of things, and the origin of this stuff was very heavily influenced by the pandemic, and hopefully I'm going to be able to say something about that, and also content-wise, what Citra was saying yesterday is very close to what I'm about to say, or has motivated the things that I'm about to say. Although I'm not going to talk about causation and causal explanation that much, I'm going to talk about control. So I'm going to try and sell you the idea that we should talk about in terms of control rather than in terms of causation when we talk about the issues that Friedher was discussing yesterday. And the other difference is that I actually have a bunch of slides. I have a lot of slides because it's a combination of things that I've been working on, and we'll see what we actually managed to go through here. And I hope somebody will allow me when I need to start wrapping up, so I can jump to some of the main points I want to convey to you. Now we'll see if I can manage to share the slides with you. Is that working? Are you seeing
Yes.
Okay, you're seeing the slide. I can't really hear you actually, so it would be nice if there would be somebody by the mic to yeah. All right, good. So I'm going to talk about medicine as science, or medicine as a science. I'm not actually sure how I should phrase this, because I wanna, let's just talk about particular discipline, but science as a whole. And I've come to this topic from various directions that I hopefully can enlighten you about soon. But I've noticed when I've asked this question, what is medicine as a science, or what is medicine as an academic discipline? Obviously, these are quite different questions, but if you talk to students, for example, it's maybe easier to start from the latter question. And that also invites the issue of the variety of sciences, or variety of things that we do in the academia. One of the background issues here is that obviously the word science, and it's other words in other languages we use these words in various different ways. And I actually came to this title when I was talking about these things in Finnish in Finland for I guess it was medical doctors. And in Finland, actually, medicine is lääketiede, which is literally drug science. It's a very strange word. I haven't even thought about that before, because we also have pharmacology, which is pharmacology. And for some reason, medicine, we don't have the word medicine in Finnish. It's drug science. And we have other kind of fields of academia that aren't sciences necessarily in English language, but are sciences in Finnish. And what I find interesting is that this, especially when you talk to students and you do philosophy science with students who are not philosophers, it's interesting to start from the question. So what is the nature of this science, since it's called science? But this question came naturally to me. But when I present this to medical doctors or students, well, doctors in particular, those who practice medicine, the typical responses are, well, medicine is not science. And I think this is something that was discussed yesterday in the evening a lot. So one typical response is, well, medicine is not science at all. Medicine is an art, or medicine is a skill. The other typical response is that medicine is not a natural science. Medicine is a social science, or part of the humanities. Again, something that was discussed yesterday evening. Very typical response is this medicine as an applied science. So there is this theoretical maybe core to it or whatever, and there's medical basic research related to biology and chemistry, physics, and all that. But that's not the core of medicine. The medicine is a pragmatic discipline that is applying these more theoretical and more kind of authentic scientific knowledge. And often it's also stressed that it applies it to individual cases, and that is supposed to be something very weird and unique and something unscientific. That science somehow deals with generalities and general theories and laws and so on, whereas clinical medicine in particular, it deals with individual cases, and that is not science. It's something completely different. I disagree, and this is why I'm not going to say that I'm going to convince you of this view that I have, and it's a very work in progress view. But hopefully I can make you think about this topic in a bit different way. Here's a bit of a long discussion I had on Twitter just like a few weeks ago on this very topic. So somebody said medical doctors should not casually assume that they are scientists. Differences between learning and conducting in-depth research qualifies a scientist as a researcher and being granted an medical doctorate are immense, and so on. And then another person said, to which I responded, medicine is a science-based practice, but not a science in itself. It uses practical reason for the goal of helping patients. So I said, I disagree. There are good reasons to think that medicine is a paradigmatic science or an explicit display of features that are paradigmatic to all science. So this is the view that I'm trying to sell you. Here's another tweet that I got from, this is from Pekka Louhiala, who is the professor of bioethics or medical ethics and philosophy of medicine at the University of Tampere. And he's a medical doctor, and he also has a philosophy PhD from Swansea, I think, maybe from the 90s or something. And he actually has a new book out on placebo, so you might check it out. So he tweeted this to me only like 10 days ago. Called one Daniel Callahan, who is a pioneering biomedical ethicist from the States. I take medicine to be a humanistic discipline that makes use of science to pursue its end. Saying that, I mean to reject a common belief that medicine is a scientific discipline with some secondary humanistic values and aims. So this is even a stronger claim that we shouldn't think about medicine as a science. And he tweeted this to me because he knew that I would disagree. Here's a book by Catherine Montgomery, How Doctors Think. It's an explicit kind of a discussion on this topic. She says, although physicians make use of science, this book argues that medicine is not itself a science, but rather an interpretive practice that relies on clinical reason. So the typical view is that medicine is not science, that it's something quite radically different to science, or at least things that we call really central to science. And I disagree, but let's see if I can not convince you, but make you think that this could be a reasonable idea. if you look at Wikipedia, well, when it says about medicine, it actually defines medicine as a science. Medicine is the science and practice of the diagnosis, prognosis, treatment, and prevention of disease. And this is actually at the core of or where I come to this. And I find it very central to medicine that it has this contrast between medicine and quackery. Again, this was something that was mentioned yesterday too, I think, in some of the comments. So why is central to medicine is that there's a contrast between effective and the ineffective. And the ineffective can be potentially harmful, but that's not really relevant to my discussion. But this I find is at the core of medicine and in kind of all of medicine. And this is what I'm trying to. This has been at the core of my work in different places, and now I want to start tying these loose ends together. So if we want to suggest that medicine is a science, then I guess we need to ask what is science about, what does science do? I want to actually stress these more pragmatic questions. What is science about? What does science do? And I think science in general is in the business of finding effective interventions. And this is just something that is very kind of explicitly present in medicine. And this is basically why I think that medicine is at the core of science. More theoretical sciences that we like to call or think that are more paradigmatic sciences are actually parasitic on this basic idea. There's the other issue of whether it makes sense to talk about science as a whole, academic disciplines as a whole, and then ask for what is their general nature or goal. And I don't want to go into the history of the unity of science discussion and all that. I just realized I have this view. I think the academia and the sciences, natural sciences, humanities, and social sciences, medicine, have are at the same at their core. They are all after effective interventions, and but I haven't really worked out the details, or I don't have a story how this connects to the unity of science debate was going on in philosophy of science, at least some time ago. I've just realized that this is kind of, if you think that humanities and social sciences and so on are radically different to chemistry and physics and biology and so on, then maybe you want to stop listening. I haven't read this book. Actually, I have it here next to me. But I just find this phrasing nice, that science is a knowledge machine. This kind of is based on that unity of that we can talk about science as this whole, as this knowledge machine. I haven't read the book. I'm pretty sure it focuses on natural sciences and so on. However, my view is that this metaphor applies to science as a whole. So here's something that I want to mention now already. So I would phrase this in the following way: science is a control machine. Science is in the business of finding effective interventions, and effective interventions are based on controlling nature, or controlling the phenomena that we happen to be interested in. So if you look at the textbooks of philosophy of science and general discussions on philosophy of science, this is the list of things that you quite easily find when you ask what science is about, what science does. I mean, of course, you might find something that science tries to seek truth or something like that, or knowledge, but when you look at like how science does this, these are the things that you will find. That science is about prediction. I mean, you all know the classical examples. Classification. So we biological taxonomy, or obviously in chemistry, the periodic table. So you find the natural kinds. You're trying to find and define the natural kinds and put them in the right order. A central function of science. And then understanding explanation, and these are the notions that were in my mind when I got into this topic originally. Explanation in particular, which is used a lot in modern philosophy of science. And we have different accounts of explanation, as you know. I'm not going to go through them in any detail. One thing to note here is that there is this tradition of having a separating understanding and explanation very, very sharply. It comes down to the natural sciences versus social sciences or humanities distinction. Yuri von Drake, the Finnish philosopher, wrote a book, quite often cited book called Explanation and Understanding, where he discusses that natural sciences explain and humanities and social sciences understand, and we kind of reconcile this. I don't find this confusing. Again, I haven't read the book. I'm not going to go into the details of it. We can of course discuss this in more detail in a bit, but I find it unconvincing, because this is what we are trying to do in a lot of psychology and cognitive science and social sciences too. We are trying to reconcile the social sciences and obviously in medicine. This is the very issue. So it's not very helpful to say that these are the radically different ways of looking at the world. So, as I've been saying, I want to suggest that science is really about this effective interventions, and this reduces to control. So why control then? Control is a non-epistemic notion. So my problem with explanation and understanding, central notions that people use when they talk about what are we trying to do in science. They are epistemic notions. You cannot explain something to you have to kind of have common language in a very kind of language kind of a way. If you want to explain, the explanation has this kind of ontic aspect that needs to be about the world and needs to be true in order to be a good explanation. But it also needs to make sense. Otherwise, it's not an explanation. And I find this problematic in ways. And not just problematic. I think that this is not the core. The core is control, and I have quantum physics here as an example. So quantum physics is the kind of the best scientific theory we have. It's the most robust theory. It's the most tested theory. It's the most precise theory, and we're putting it into practice too. We already have quantum computers and so on. But we don't have, it doesn't, I mean, we don't have an explanation of it. It's not, that is the philosophical discussion around quantum physics, how to interpret that. My point is that we can already use it. We can only use it to control things, even if it's just statistical control or whatever. Control doesn't have to be deterministic. So this is what I'm trying to say when I suggest that control is a more basic notion, and then explanation and understanding is something that is based, something that we can do once we establish that some control relation. And the same with predicting and classification. As I think about classification, I mean, we kind of need classification in order to do some kind of predicting. We need some set of entities, some sensible scenarios in which to talk about prediction and classification. Now I would say the classification is based on finding similar control profiles. So we classify control profiles, and that's why we call entities the same. So I'm suggesting that control is something that bases these typical notions that we use to discuss science. So why then medicine and control? I think it's quite obvious that the medicine is linked to control of pathogens, for example. So it is about effective interventions. You find explicit definitions of fields of medicine where control is a term. By the way, perhaps here's a good moment to know that there is no philosophy of science of control. There's very little of philosophy of control in general. There's a lot of discussion about causation, as you know, explanation, and so on. And this is a very weird thing. If you look at many sciences, control is the word that appears in there, and not just in science, but many other fields too. But there's very little discussion on what is control and how it should be defined, and what its relation is to these other notions. So here's my definition of medicine. Medicine aims to control physiological, psychological, populational phenomena that we have identified as desired or undesired. And I think the medical taxonomies, relevant taxonomies, so the entities of the natural kinds, medical kinds, are based on robust control relations. So I happen to think nowadays, this is a paper that is about to come out hopefully in the next few days, that psychotherapy and entities that we associate with psychotherapy, which is mental disorders and mental states, are real, psychologically real, precisely because they are. We have this way of mental or kind of a mental and social way of controlling these states. And what's also central to medicine, and again something that discussed by Siddhar in his talk, or this is how I interpret it, that we constantly in medicine weigh these pros and cons and trade-offs various kinds of better or worse ways of controlling the target phenomenon. This is kind of the context from which I got into this topic. So I find that this is central to all of science, but in medicine this is kind of always or very often present, that you have various ways of intervening on the world, or controlling the phenomena that you're interested in, and you have to weigh these variety of interventions. Am I out of time soon? Can somebody?
Yeah. So if you want to wrap up, you can probably. Sorry.
Am I out of time already, or how?
Yeah, you're kind of out of time, but you can use like 2 minutes to wrap up, I guess.
Okay, all right. I mean, like I said, a lot of stuff in here, but hopefully I already made you think about the topic that I have, and maybe I made you convinced that I might be onto something here. Just quickly, going to go through a lot of, like I said, this is a bunch of things that I've talked to some medical people and students, and I've talked to some engineers, and this is about a set of slides. And but let me just say that for the past year or so, I've been working on so mathematical control theory with a good friend and colleague of mine, who some of you know, who works on these things, and I want to tie all this into a precise theory, and I have an outline of this stuff here, which I'm not gonna go through now, obviously. Let me just say, let me finish by saying something about something that is very familiar to all of us. So I started to think about this last summer, so summer 2020, in relation to this pandemic, when I gave a talk and I wrote this essay, which you can find online. So what I found interesting from the perspective of philosophy of science, with the pandemic and the discussion surrounding it, is that it made apparent the fact that reality is really messy or multifactorial. To me, this was already clear, but I feel and this I think was present in Sritha's talk yesterday too, that we have this urge to try and find the cause or the causes of a thing, and there are right, effective way of intervening on whatever we find worthwhile to intervene on. But in this situation, we have a variety of things that we can do, a variety of effective ways of controlling the situation. I mean, the lockdown is a way of controlling the pandemic, but we also kind of see that it's not a good way of controlling. And why is that? Well, because we are also intervening on things that we don't want to intervene. So we want to have a very kind of to say here at the end, accurately effective way of controlling the pandemic. And this is what I find to ground the idea of vaccination, and in fact the whole field of virology, and that we can have this sort of a very precise way of interacting and controlling these entities, and phenomena. What I also found interesting is that, and I will finish after this. I want to stress the more the effect side. So all philosophy of science have been focusing on causes and causal explanation, and looks at the issues from the perspective of causes and possible causes and so on. I want to say that we need to start looking at effects and possible effects, or possible targets of control, because things are effective only in relation to precise targets. And what was interesting about this pandemic is that we still have like a set of variables that we are looking, and we're trying to control. And what was clear really from the beginning that these are in tension with each other. So it's not possible to have an optimal control over all of these variables, and we need to make decisions. Which variable we want to control? Is it death rate, or is it the number of hospitals cases, or excess death rate, and so on? And
Almost,
and this is a value judgment.
I hate to interrupt, but you're now 7 minutes over, so you do really need to wrap up.
Yeah, I'm done.